Hi everyone, my name is Timothy and I'm an indie game developer. Currently I'm working on my project called Primal Fray and it's a pixel art project. I've been working with pixel art for a few years now and I'm meeting more and more people trying to learn that or doing that for a little time, and what I've seen is that many people often make the same mistakes, which are easily solved with your approach, no matter the tools you are using, the programs, or the style. So I thought I'll make a video with some tips for you guys to just improve your pixel art game. So without any further ado, let's get it started. First thing you're doing wrong, I think, you're using the outline wrong. If you've ever seen any pixel art improvement tutorial, you probably have already seen this, right? You can instantly tell what's wrong with this picture. Many beginners use outline wrong. And by wrong, I mean two aspects. One, you're making your outline too dark. And the second part, you are adding things too much outline. Let me show you what I mean. So I have the same picture, the same shading and everything, with different levels of outline. First one is a big no-no part. You should never ever make these mistakes. So what I've done here is I basically outlined every element of the piece. So he has a different texture here, outline. All the creaks in his legs and limbs, outline. You can already tell it's not a good approach. First, let's talk about the contrast part. So imagine I'd take my lighter color than this black and just paint it over this outline. Not thinking about what colors are under. See the difference? It's a slight change, but he already looks better. You can see this black is way too black, yeah? And it's just a uniform color placed in all the wrong places. Even if you want a heavy dark outline outside, you can make the picture much clearer just removing the outline inside. Or probably he's holding this light here, so we can just, Okay, but so that's like a big no-no zone. Never do this. Absolutely never do this. Don't use just dark outline all over the place. And especially don't use it inside. So now's the part that probably you've already heard. And most videos end the step here. I'm going to do much more detail than that. Basically, most videos just tell you, okay, use outline, but in places which don't especially need outline, like the inside, use lighter tones. So if I turn them off and the light, you can see on the wings there is light gray outline. On the dark, this insectoid parts, it's a black, almost black outline, dark gray and brown outline on the fur parts. And already if I compare it to this one, you can see this is way cleaner because the outline inside has lower contrast value basically than the outline outside. Basically, you do the outline, but you don't know what it's for. The outline is for contrast only. So it serves the purpose of distinguishing the character from the outside world. Because if it's dark, it's the highest contrast you can get, especially in a light background. So the character just pops out of the scene. Okay? And if it's needed, if it's like an action superhero movie in a comic book, they have really dark, thick, outlines. That's probably a good thing stylistically to do. In our case, not so much. Let's remind you guys that it's don't go here. So this approach, depending on your stylistic choices, you may do, and most tutorials will tell you to do this. For me, it's like it's okay, nothing special. If we go one step further with an outline, what have I done here? I basically left the black outline. I haven't changed the colors of it, okay? I left the black even on the wings. So I left the black outline all around this character, to keep this contrast value the comic artists use, okay? But I've removed the outline from the inside, I can show you, from every place which doesn't need it. So almost any place. There is some there is some outline because I had it in my original picture. So I use like this small elements of outline like this here, that I do not do a full line here. I just do a partial outline from this side, Sometimes it connects if it's little space, but often it doesn't. And it adds the more natural look to the character. Or like here, I just do the shadow, I don't do the outline, or I do the outline, but I do it really lightly, like here, okay? So it's a very subtle approach, and I just leave the outline on the outside. And this already, compare it like to this one or to this one. This here, of course, the differences become smaller and smaller. However, you can see this, especially like on this claw. So like there is black outline here, but there is really not that big of an outline on the inside to show that this light magic thing is lit, okay? And yeah, for example, on the wings, on the ears, it's an interesting idea, because here you can see I use the shadow, and here I use the light values, and basically I don't need an outline to show this contrast, because the contrast automatically like comes out from these colors. I can do a partial like outline so that the shadow is regressing here, but it's just, you know, how the light affects the ear the character has, and not really the outline sort of. So this one I would rate it's good. It's a stylistic choice, and also what you can do with this is you can use different colors for outlines. So this guy is generally brown, so I can basically paint his outline brown, maybe a darker brown. Okay, and already we can control, now we have the contrast, like this contrast thing, and we can control that, how big of a contrast we want with the color we use. Or we can use like a white value if we really want it, or whatever. It won't work with this character because I haven't designed him for that, but it's possible. Also, if we go with this approach, what we can also do, we can change the outline thickness quite easily. So depending on the, now this is a program dependent thing, okay? But if we combined, so like his own all-in-one picture, we can just, you know, give him another layer of outline, like black. No, we use the brown, right? Already you can see we have a double outline on him. It doesn't really look good, but we have the option to do it, and it serves its purpose. Okay, and the last approach, this is I use outline rarely, so I do it really depending on the part of them. So I want his wings to be translucent, so I don't use outline on them. You know, I don't want them to contrast and to stand out as a standalone shape. I want them to be flimsy and not really that popping out. But I want to enhance his ears and his like shoulder, this, what are the insects called? Like this stomach part, you know, insects have them. I don't remember right now, but what I want to enhance the contrast, I will use the outline for. So like these like elbow, I will use it, yeah? And you can see the principles I used earlier. So darker outside, lighter inside, but also the values are really toned down compared to the blacks. And I will use partial outlines, and I won't use outlines at all if it's not necessary. So based on stylistic choice of your game, these two are basically the options you should go for. So either use a partial outline and really control it, or use a uniform outline outside and make it dark, but really think about the outline inside. Anything more than that will make your picture really scrappy. Okay, I've rambled enough. Let's go to the tip number 2. Okay, and tip number 2 is use bigger brush sizes, my friends. It's something I've learned recently. I had this problem for a long time. So let's imagine you want to do an effect. like someone hits another guy and you want to show the trail, like an icon of a trail. So if you're new to pixel art, you will probably use this brush. So like base 1 pixel brush, really. Yeah, and you will try to do something like, I have this much space. It's 64 by 64, so quite a lot. You probably won't use that big of a canvas for an icon if you are a beginner, but let's say you are. And suddenly you are presented with a problem, because you will try to do an outline of the swing and it will look something like weird bananas. Okay? And then you will like put the color inside, and then you will like maybe do something like this, or maybe try to, you know, shape it, but it will take you a long time. Why? Because you are using the wrong brush size for that. Let's use like a 3 or a 4 maybe brush size here, and we just and you can already see it's coming so much quicker, and we just need it for a base shape. Then we can like lower the brush size a little and sculpt it a little more, and it comes so much more quickly, and the movement is so much more natural because you have more control over the space you are using. And I can't stress this enough: use bigger brushes. Also, additional tip, if you are using the technique I mentioned, and depending on the parity of your brush size, you will get different effects. So what do I mean by that? Basically, because there is so little pixels in your brush size, your brush size of 1 is a square. But you should treat it really like a point, because there isn't anything smaller than that on the screen. However, if you increase that, there are smaller things than that. So another brush size is a square, because it cannot be rounded, it's too small. So if you paint with that, you will quick notice that you are getting square-based shapes and like, you know, lines, straight lines, etc. One of my favorite brush sizes is a 3 brush size. Why? Because it's a little like cross. So, and you will find yourself, if you are drawing with that, you will find a lot of hard edges. Like, you will get this one pixel details, right? Because basically this cross has 4 1 pixel details. And if you will be like making the edges of the texture with that, you will get those details quite quickly, and there will be less for you to like add on later than with that. But also, this creates quite a jumbled and messy look, so don't use it for example for like hills or clouds. This will be like too sharp for you. Tip number 3 is you use Pixel Perfect to match. When I first found out about Pixel Perfect, I was amazed by it, because basically if you draw without it, your lines look something like this, so there is a lot of overlap in these places. If you use Pixel Perfect, there is no overlap, so you get this sharp, clean look with no double pixels, basically no such elements, or you know, you have to intentionally add them. If you just do this, there will be no double pixels, and it's an amazing option. Don't get me wrong, I use it like 70 or 80% of the time, but you shouldn't use it 100% of the time, and I know it's so easy to do because I had such tendencies too. Why do I say that? Well, again, it's a similar point to the last one I made with the brush sizes. It's all about sculpting. If I want to sculpt something, but I have a small area for that, so let's say like this. Maybe I don't want to use a bigger brush size for some reason. Okay, if I want to like sculpt, for example, something rounded, like an apple or something, I will try to do this, and I can do it, yes, but I have to see, I've intentionally went around again to fix this, and often you will see that some pixels you want to highlight are missing because the Pixel Perfect tool is disabling them from being spawned. And if you don't use Pixel Perfect tool, this first pass will get much smoother because every pixel you get on will be like considered, and it's especially useful with the eraser. Of course, later when you are doing the outline, keep the pixel perfect option on, because otherwise you will be in pain a lot. Coming back to the previous point, or like previous 2 points, I was talking a lot about sculpting, and now I will tell you why. The mistake you are probably making, because I was making it for a long time, you are starting to draw with an outline. So if you want to do a character, you like open your canvas and you're like, oh, he will be a knight, so he will like have his helmet here and like this, the eye sockets, you know, and you try to paint a knight this way. That's a wrong way, because you won't ever be able to establish those shapes correctly just with an outline. Outline is a sprinkle on top, is an added value for contrast. Don't use it for sculpting ever. Don't use it. If you want to paint a knight, bump your brush size to something bigger, not that big, not on that canvas. And now, paint his helmet more or less, you know, just to get the shape. And now you're like, oh, it's too thin, so I can do it this way. Oh, it's something, so I can erase it, you know? You are working, like, you're working with this as if you were working with a clay. It is so much faster to adjust the shapes, and imagine if you were to work with an outline. So imagine you are working with this outline, okay? But you are like, his head is too thin, what will you do? You'll like take and move this and then add the outline again here, and it already took me like a lot of time, and we're like, no, now it's to something, and you will go over this outline, then erase this outline. You can see how much time it takes. And if I just take this and work on the shape first, and I can make his armor here, I'm already like establishing some shadow and highlights. Like here, he's a shadow cast from his helmet, and here it's the 2-part armor of his, some legs, you know? Look how quick that is. And imagine doing an outline for all of that. And if I don't like it, I will just, you know, I will work with this. I will sculpt it. And it's so much faster than doing the outline. You can do inside shapes too. See? Final thing I know you are not doing is setting up your color palette before starting the work. I know you are not doing it because you are lazy and you are thinking, what do I need it for? Well, I will tell you, your pictures will never look good if you just hand pick every color. Why? Because there is no goddamn artist on earth, or maybe some like higher echelon of artists, like top 1% who can fucking do this. You just can't. I cannot do this. Most of the creators out there cannot do this. Why? Because hand-picking colors from this wheel, choosing from 20 million colors, you will never get what you want. So let's say I'm doing like a dragon, so like, I want some red color, and I will just paint this dragon with this red, and I'm like, no, it's too red, so I will take this red, and I will make it desaturated, and now it looks bland, and blah. You know, it won't work really well. And let's say you have this dragon, so you like this red color, right? And now you want the dragon to have green eyes. So you just take a random green and paint on top of this. And oh, it doesn't really suit him because the green, maybe it's too blue green or too yellow green or something, and you will spend like so much time hand picking those colors, guessing what's good for this red. And then you will change the red and you will have to change all of the colors, which isn't really a good approach. And then if you want to do like 2 shades of red and 2 shades of green or even more, you will see like, it doesn't go well together. Like this red doesn't go well with anything, but even if it did go well with this red, which it doesn't, it won't go well with this green. And if you have a color palette prepared, you just use it and you don't think about it. You can think about the things you are designing, knowing your colors of all things will work correctly because you've designed them earlier. And if you don't want to design the palette on your own, there are a lot of tools online to design a color palette. For example, there is a cool tool, for example, called Adobe Color, and it is free, you can use it online. You can just get here, and what I most love about this tool is that you can upload a file from the artwork you like here. So for example, I will upload my file from the Primal Fray, and you can see he told me what are the dominant colors in this scene, and I can choose. Sorry, I have it in Polish. I forgot to change that, but you will have it in your own language. The way he chooses colors. So this is based on color. So he will choose different blues, different greens, and different he chose red. I have little red in the scene, but he chose one of the reds anyway, just to show you that this is the red the guy uses. But you can choose also the bright colors. So these are the depending on brightness, these are the darkest colors, these are the lighter colors. The saturated colors, so colors that are more desaturated that are used in this picture, like the deeper, darker, no criteria. You can mishmash this tool with your favorite artworks, and then you can tweak those colors a little bit, and you get the hex codes you can use in your project. And again, biggest advantage in your project is that you don't waste your time thinking about the colors. You use your time designing your cool dragon or whatever you are designing, and you don't really think if you need a different red or not. You just use the red you have, and if you dislike the palette after some time, you can always change it and change your artworks based on the changes in your palette. Okay, so that's been all the tips from me. Leave me a comment if you knew any of those ideas or if you learned something new. If yes, I'm glad. If no, well, it's my first tutorial on this channel. What I generally try to do is I develop my game. So I develop Primal Fray. And if you want to see more of that, I have a lot of devlogs on this channel. You may hop and check them out. I draw a lot and I have some time lapses if you are interested in that, or you can give me a hint if you want more tutorials. So anyway, that's been all for me, and see you next time. Bye bye.